I got to follow my script to do it right, don't I?
Yeah. How many weeks have we been doing this now, huh?
And Kristen, now we have a script that I follow to make sure I do it right if I look at the script.
That's wonderful. I have to put a big Post-it on my computer that says record, don't forget.
Yeah. And I have a couple notes up on the monitor here that one of them tells me to talk softly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do I have to talk softly?
No, just Teddy does. It's
okay.
That's a Teddy thing. So. All right, so we're going live. It's 12:01. It's time to get started. Hey, folks, I'm Teddy Burriss. This is my good friend, Mr. Randy Wooden.
Hey, everybody.
Our special guest, we'll tell you about her in a minute, is Kristen Zavo. And Randy, do you want me to do the housekeeping or do you want to do it today?
I will do the housekeeping. I'll introduce myself. I'll turn it to you to introduce yourself and briefly Kristen, and then have her take over from there. So how does that sound?
Got it, buddy.
Am I talking softly enough? Does it sound
You're
okay?
fine, man.
All right.
Here, Randy, talk into the microphone.
I'm an old radio guy. Anyway, Randy Wooden, Teddy Burriss. Since April, we just put our heads together and said, let's have some fun and be kind of informative at the same time and try to help our job-seeking clients and job-seeking folks that we run across in our day-to-day. There are a lot of you out there, and unfortunately, that's just the nature of where we are. So my job, I run Goodwill's Professional Center in Winston-Salem. We started the program back in 2012. It's grown. We have clients across the country, and so if you're watching this, and I'll ask, if you are watching, tell us in the chat box where you're watching from. What city are you in? But anyway, if you are a job hunter, please find me on LinkedIn, reach out to me, email me, contact me. I'm happy to help. Totally free. But let me turn it over to my my cohort. Are you over here today, or are you over
I have the ability. Where do you want me to be, buddy? I can move it around. Okay, I can click on and move. I can put Kristen up top and put you down at the bottom.
What?
Yeah.
I got this new version of Zoom. And I can do all kinds of cool things. I can turn Randy off if he bothers me.
Oh no!
It wouldn't be the first time.
Hey, I'm Teddy Burriss. I run a business called Burriss Consulting. I'm a LinkedIn strategist, trainer, and coach. I love doing that, but I also love helping people figure out how to find jobs. And so I spent a lot of time doing that, and that's one of the reasons why me and my buddy started this show. We're calling it a show now, Randy, if you didn't know that.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Good. Up to date.
The syndicated guys, they told us that when we were talking about the syndication, that we need to use syndication words.
Okay, I like it.
Not a webinar, it's a show.
It's a show.
So anyway, today I'm fortunate that our special guest is Kristen Zavo, Z-A-V-O. Kristen's a career coach. She does a lot of speaking. She's written a book called Job Joy, Your Guide to Success, Meaning, and Happiness in Your Career. I love that combination of words. Kristen spent a lot of time. She wrote in 2 decades, but I don't get that. She wrote, she tells me that she's been did a lot of corporate work, but then moved out of investment banking and consulting industry, working with lots of big companies, and decided what's the word? Leap out on her own and build her own business. And now she's having fun helping people, doing podcasts, all around helping people with their career, their success, and finding their life's purpose. Kristen, did I get close?
Yeah, you got it. And
tell us a little bit more about who you are.
Yeah, so I say nearly 2 decades. I've got 18 years, and I do still celebrate every birthday. We have these candles called Still 29, and we just bring them out. So I totally feel you on that. But yeah, I've changed careers multiple times, throughout the time that I've been working, everything from teaching to consulting to banking to strategy and marketing. And, I was one of those people. I followed the rules. I did what we were supposed to. I got straight A's. I, went to college.
I'm following the rules.
Right? Not anymore. Not anymore. But in the past, I followed the rules, and, I found myself at 29, 30 with a really successful career, making lots of money for a young person in New York City, doing impressive things. But when I looked around, I was so unhappy. I was alone. I was working 80 hours a week. My health was suffering. It It was really bad. And, I didn't know it at the time, but that was planting the seed for the work I do now. And that career change, I had changed from consulting to marketing and strategy, which was completely different, finance to marketing. And when I started doing that, people said, how did you do it? And could you help me? And that was how coaching was born before I went full time in it. So lots of good stuff. And I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, real good. Well, we're good to have you, buddy.
Hey, we've got people tuning in from New York, over in Staten Island. Maybe somebody you used to work with. I don't know. So we've got somebody from Staten Island, and as you might expect, the Triad area. We've also got Pennsylvania, and we've had as far away as Italy. I think we've had that. We've had California, Canada, and all over. Now, you're in the Queen City. Is that the Queen City? Is that what they call it?
Yes. I'm in Cincinnati. And as I'm reading some of the chat, I see some of my people here. Hey, Michelle. Hey, Lori. I'm so glad you joined us today.
Mm-hmm. There you go. All right. Well, let's get it started. Teddy?
All right. Well, cool stuff. So I've got my ducks in a row. So you use this phrase, Kristen, that when I first met you, I was like, I like those two words. I like those two words. Peanut butter jelly. Oh, no. I mean, job joy.
Yeah.
Can you define that for us a little bit and maybe put it into some relevance to maybe yourself or others?
Yeah, job joy, it really, the root of it, the foundation of it is when we have the courage to really define success on our own terms, not what society says, not what mom and dad say, not what our friend group say, but to really stop and say, what do I want from my life, not just my career, and then having the courage to go after it. And when you found your job joy, whether you do something like me, right? And you become an entrepreneur, or whether you find another corporate job, whether you change careers, you'll know you're in the right place where simply by being yourself, you are appreciated, you are celebrated, people think you are amazing. When we're in a toxic job, right, it can really wear on our confidence, right? And we're wondering what's wrong with us. But the job joy is when you get to just show up in your natural strengths, your natural personality, all your little quirks, and people love you for it. And you get paid well for it. And you get to have a life outside of work.
I don't have any quirks, Randy. Is that right? None at all.
None that we can mention on air. So, but you make an excellent point, Kristen. There's so many variables, and life for many of us is a series of trade-offs. And you took a long, hard look at where things were and the trade-off of the money, prestige, and all that versus quality of life. So those are some sometimes very difficult decisions, especially if you've got family and other financial obligations. So, and we talk to tons of people. I know I do. That you're kind of stuck in a comfortable rut where you're making money, but you're not happy. And so today we want to talk through, I think, the process of how we go about trying to find our job joy. What is it? How do we get there? And so again, we've got a lot of turf to cover. So Teddy, let's turn it back to you. I see we've got Ruth joining us from Kernersville. She's a former colleague of mine, and I can't speak for Ruth necessarily, but I'll try. And I can tell you that Ruth several times has said when she set foot in Goodwill to help out, she said, this is where I belong. And she also had a high-paying corporate job, travel out the wazoo, a lot of stress. And I'm kind of in that same boat too. So we're all in good spots right now, but we didn't get there necessarily overnight, and it takes some time and thought.
I remember when I made my leap, and when I made my leap, Randy.
Yeah.
I had, Kristen, I had to take the keys to the Ferrari, the keys to the Learjet hangar, and the keys to the executive washroom and hand them back in HR. I turned in the American Express. I turned in the opportunity to go to anywhere I wanted across the country. It wasn't a Learjet, it was a King Air, but it was a twin prop and it was a nice ride. I gave all that up. I also gave up this huge income. I was making $83 million a year in my mind. I gave all that up to go to zero income and start building this thing where I play. I do not work. I play and people pay me to do it. And huge discovery of my true job joy. So, yeah, and I got a few quirks, by the way, and I'm honest about that. So
I love that. We all do. And I do want to say that while sometimes making a huge career change might mean a temporary, setback in terms of income, it is not a fact that if you're happy, you make less money. I actually think that in the long run, right, when we're happy, we show up better, we have abundance in ways more than money, right? Love, time, presence, friendships. But even beyond that, we can make the same money and even surpass it. It's just not as important anymore.
Well, and another thing I discovered as well, Kristen, is that I had these aspirations, which is probably a way to say that, to say how stupid it was, that I needed to have multiple lakefront properties, oceanfront property, mountain property. I needed another motorcycle. I needed a bigger boat. I needed another truck. And I needed an airplane. Well, you know what I discovered? I don't need any of that. No, I don't need any of that. I just need to have friends that have that.
That was good.
I'm straight up. I
walked right into that one. I'm like, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's true. I don't have to have the income necessary for all of these grandiose things that I thought I need to have. Now, this is Teddy talking about Teddy, not anybody else. But I have friends that have that. I got a friend right down the street who has an airplane. He says, you tell me where you want to go and when, and we'll do it. Yeah. I got friends with mountain property, lake property, oceanfront property. And, all I got to do is be nice and friendly and polite to my friends, and maybe they'll let me get a discount on the rental. Far better than owning that stuff. So, yeah. So it's not about income. It's about truly enjoying life. All right. So, Kristen, let's break this down a little bit. So we're going to truly find our job joy. I would think there's got to be some kind of a process to it.
Yes.
And I would think that step one should be maybe something along the lines of clarity.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it's absolutely right. And even though that might sound so obvious as you're saying it out loud, so many of us haven't thought about what we wanted to do for work since we were 18 and choosing a major in college. Right. And you wouldn't go ask an 18-year-old for career advice, but many of us, just the momentum of life and climbing the ladder, where we find ourselves now at 30, 40, 50, 60 is where, the path we set out on literally as a kid. Mm-hmm. Right. And so, the first thing is to really stop. And I tell my clients to do this at least annually, if not quarterly, but to really stop and say, what's working, what's not, what do I want out of my life? Do I feel the way I want to feel? Am I showing up as the person I want to be, right? How do I want to spend my days? What are my values and priorities? And does the job I have now or the job I'm looking for, does that align with what I say is most important? So when I was a consultant, right, it didn't matter how much money they gave me. It didn't matter how many CEOs I met or how many boards I presented to. The fact is, if I valued adventure and love and health, those were three things that were not possible working 70 to 80 hours a week, being alone, having no time to date, being so exhausted. Forget travel for fun, right? I mean, I would come home at the end of a long week and all I would have the energy for was takeout. And I watched this show. You guys probably don't know, but the women will know what I'm talking about. It was called Snapped. Does anyone, if type in the comments, I would love to hear if anyone knows this. Anyway, to tell you the mental state I was in, Snapped was about women who went crazy and killed their cheating boyfriends. So,
I don't know anything about that,
right? But that was, Teresa sounds like she knows. I mean, it's depressing, right? And that was where I was. So the reason I wasn't happy was because what I valued from life, what actually was fulfilling to me, was not possible in this job. And it's not saying there's anything wrong with the job. If you are loving that, fantastic, but it wasn't aligned with me. So we can go a lot more into clarity, but that is the first step, thinking, what do I want from my life? And then does the career I'm in or going after, does it support that?
Yeah. And often when we get, when we start out, even early in our career, midway through our career, it kind of looks like, that next great job, we're looking at it through, what's the analogy? rose-colored glasses. It kind of looks better. The grass is greener on the other side of the street. I remember those conversations. I remember doing that. I remember going, oh man, this job's going to be great. They're going to pay me, you know, way more money, and I got a company car, and oh, my back riding in an airplane all day long is killing me. I remember that world, and it wasn't necessarily better in the big picture. So yeah, I get you, Kristen. Understanding where we want to go, what is it that really excites us? I tell people that when you're trying to figure out, I don't use the phrase job joy, I would be stealing that from you. But if I'm telling people to find their true joy in their work, then you've got to look at this way different than most people look at it. You've got to look at it in a very strange, freaky way. And you got to look at stuff that is, you know, really out there, you know, something way bizarre. I often use the analogy that, you know, maybe you write down, you want to be a cat wrestler, and you want to be an airplane pilot. Maybe you say you want to be, you know, write down public speaker, and write down all these wild ideas that really get this and this going. And that can help you really get focused on doing something way different that you truly enjoy. So, yeah, buddy.
Got a question for you, Kristen. You talked about the things that you valued that didn't exist. How did you know that you valued those necessarily? I guess what I'm driving at is this discovery process. What did you go through to come to that realization?
Yeah, at the time, right? Everything is easier, right? Looking backwards, I can see that now. At the time, and I'm glad you brought this up, I was blaming other things. Oh, it's because I need to get promoted. Oh, it's because this project is terrible. It's like a job is like a relationship, right? Even when it's long over, we're attached to the good times, right? And so I was attached to the good times and waiting for it to get better for years. And I didn't know other than, you know, what would make me upset, right? I was nearing 30, right? Oh, I don't want to be alone, you know, and in my 30s, I would do things to make me happy, but it would only be in the short term. So, you know, for Teddy, it might've been property and planes. For me, it was shoes and fancy meals and that sort of thing, but it would only make me happy in the short term. So I think, you know, if I were to go back, I would have spent more time reflecting before things got so bad that I had to quit. I quit my consulting job. It was affecting my health. And then in that space, when I said, okay, I don't have a job, I need to figure out what's next. That's when I got to thinking, what's most important to me? Why didn't this work out, right? Because I had changed jobs so many times. And if you don't do this clarity work, you'll get the new job. Everyone on this call right now can get the job. But you want to get the right job that you're going to be happy with in the long run. And so looking at what are your pain points, right? What makes you sad? What gets you excited? Looking at even if you've had little moments of excitement, what were those and why did it make you excited, right? Because even in the most toxic job, we'll have moments of feeling good, right? So we can pull that out. So it's a little different for everyone. We spend an entire week on this in my course on clarity, and some people do the whole 10 weeks just on clarity. So there's lots of ways to get to it. But there's also, you know, lots of breadcrumbs to see what is important to you. What do you love talking about? Right? What can't you stop reading about? What do you do in your free time? What did you love to do as a child? There's so many ways to get at this.
Yeah. And it is a journey. And it doesn't happen overnight.
And we change, right? And that's another point of clarity. Thinking about what is your season of life. In my 20s, maybe I was okay, you know, with work being 100%, right? But as you get older, other things, you know, do you want to have a family? Are there other things you want to do? Is it just work that is fulfilling you?
Yeah. And it's different for all of us.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely. Yeah. Randy's absolutely happy with working 10 hours a week. I am happy working 20 hours a week. Oh, wait a minute.
You forgot
she's not on here, man.
She's not. You forgot about my afternoon nap, though. I'm getting older, you know, and
That's
I need all my beauty sleep I can get. But so this whole discovery process, I often say life is a journey, and it's made up of a lot of chapters, and they're not all pretty ones. But hopefully we learn from those. And as we get older, we may not always know what we want to do, but at least we kind of know things we don't want to do, and hopefully don't keep making those same mistakes. So I guess I need to throw something at you here. And
Yeah.
I call it the pebble in my shoe or the thorn in my paw. If I'm in a toxic environment, I'm in a job that I don't want to stay in, there's that pebble in my shoe, thorn in the paw that says, okay, I don't have to quit my job, but I need to look. So I'm not going to consciously jump into that same environment because my antenna is up and the radar is up and says, no, I'm not going to go down there again. But you know what? There's a whole other set of issues. You take on a new job. So I guess, I don't want to be Pollyanna and say there's the perfect job, because I don't think necessarily that there's a perfect anything. But I think if we go in with our eyes open and we know what we don't want to do, I think that helps us focus ultimately on things that really are in our sweet spot. Have you found any, when you coach your clients, you're finding anything that, any sort of tips or, indicators to look at to say, you know what, my spidey sense is tingling here. I don't want to go down that path because I'm sensing that there's something there that I'm not going to be happy with. How do we kind of get to that point where we're able to detect what that next job might be, and if indeed it does lead us to our job joy?
Yeah, so I've got lots of thoughts on this.
Yeah.
A very just simple, tactical, practical thing is I have people look at least the last 3 jobs they've had. Everyone I work with has a solid amount of experience under their belt. But looking at what did I like, what didn't I like, but why, right? Because both of us might hate being in Excel all day, but our reason might be different. You might say, I don't want to be alone with my computer. I need more socialization. I might say, I don't like being in Excel all day because I have no creative outlet, right? And so the why is going to be more important in figuring out what we want to avoid and what we want to include in our next job. As far as like making sure we find our job joy, I like to relax a little bit and take the pressure off of I need to find my life's purpose, my job joy for the rest of my life, and just treat this as an adventure. Say the worst case happens. You get a job, right? It's not your dream job. You learn, right? And then you go get another job. Life is long, right? They say, the stats on how many careers people have over a lifetime, it's a lot. Right? I think it's like 7 or 8, like it's definitely close to 10. And so taking the pressure off and just what is going to make me happy, what is aligned with a mission that I can get behind, what is going to allow me to have a fulfilling life outside of work, because so many people I work with are workaholics, right? That was definitely me. And I still have to keep tabs on that now, make sure my boss is nice to me, right? But, we become workaholics, and then because our life is about work, we're expecting to get everything from it, right? And that's where I remember a client telling me that they forgot her birthday at work, and that was just huge to her. She was so upset because she didn't have the rest of her life full where she was celebrated, right? And of course that was wrong, but the point is, when we're not relying on our job for all fulfillment in life, when we have a full life outside of work, number one, we bring our best selves to work. We're more creative, we're more refreshed. But also it's less pressure on that job, and we don't have all those expectations. So as you can tell, I'm very holistic. It's about the job and how it fits in your life, and vice versa. Did that answer the question? I feel like I went on a bit of a tangent.
Now we got an hour, you're good. Hey, part of it's the identity, and too often I think people their identity is their job, and when they lose their job, they've lost their identity or their value or purpose in society in a lot of cases. And that's a self-inflicted wound, admittedly, but I think it's a reality for a lot of folks. Or if you're stuck in a job that sucks, you may be making money, but if you're not happy and you don't sleep well at night, you got some issues. We have John had keyed in a question. He says, what do you suggest for someone whose joy job is in a field that simply doesn't have many actual pays enough to live on opportunities? I know John's a client of mine, and for him, he loves photography, but he has an IT background. So IT is where the money is. And Teddy, you've been in IT for many years.
And I also know an entrepreneur who's a photographer.
Yep. So that's John's question is, hey, my passion is photography. but I need to eat. And
Yeah.
yeah,
So there's a
yeah.
few ways that we can look at this. Number one, we can look at, do you actually need to do your passion for, for a living, right? Can you get that fix? And this is part of what I talk about, having a full life. Can you get that fix without having to rely on it for your income? This is something that Liz Gilbert talks about in her book, Big Magic. And she talks about not putting pressure on our art, in her case, her writing, right? In John's case, his photography, not putting the pressure that it has to feed us. Right. So that is one way to look at it. Another thing you can do is get creative, right? Can we start with just something really small, just a prototype? What could you sell? For me, I see IT and photography. Absolutely. I mean, think about, right? What nobody posts on Instagram anymore without putting a million filters and GIFs and using 5 different apps, right? Like, if John could come up with a photography app, right, that would do it all in one, that would be huge. So thinking about what is the need, and coming up with something there. And then also you could do just like a little side hustle, like try something without the pressure of it having to pay the bills, and see, does this have legs? And if so, then you can build it out. That's how a lot of side hustles turn into full-time jobs. So I don't think it has to be such a black and white answer. And you can absolutely make money in photography. Like Teddy said, right? There are lots of entrepreneurs doing that.
Yeah.
And it could just be part.
Yep, I got one of my daughters has 3 sons, and her full-time gig is a photographer, and she probably works 15 hours a week.
Yeah, and you're actually reminding me, a board I'm on, it's called Kaleidoscope Moments, and the woman who founded it, she is a photographer, and so what she does for this nonprofit, she takes pictures and creates this just fantasy world like Disney characters for kids with cancer. So it's a moment to forget about just the operations and everything going on, and the Disney princesses visit. She uses her photography, and that's how she's able to make a huge impact in the lives of people who really need a moment of fun, So there's so many options. It's limitless. We get to make our own jobs now. We don't have to be stuck in the box of what is on LinkedIn, apply.
Yeah. Kristen, when I think about this, this discovery of our job joy, it can't be let's spend a half an hour and figure this out and then we'll move on, because often, as you referred to already, the discovery of what we really want to do comes with that next conversation. We're going to talk to somebody. John's going to meet a photographer, and that photographer is going to tell. And by the way, John, if you want to meet a photographer and you want to have a conversation about how they got there, I'll be glad to introduce you. You know how to find me. If you can't find me, then I'm screwing up big time, because I own the internet. But anyway, it comes with the ideas of what really excites us comes with that next conversation, or maybe that next conversation.
You bring up a fantastic point. Clarity doesn't just come from your head and from journaling exercises, right? That could be part of it. That could be a start, but clarity really comes from action, right? So you've got to make sure you do both.
Yeah, continual. And so I remember it was 2010 when I went on a journey, and I have it in my teddyburriss@gmail.com calendar. I had 120 conversations.
Wow.
Okay. And I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I just knew I needed to go talk to people about ideas. Little did I know I was building a process that got me into the right conversations with the right people about the right things. And each conversation led me to another conversation that even got me more information to help me create clarity.
Exactly.
Yeah. Have you read this book, Kristen?
I have not.
You need to put it on your list. And everybody needs to put this book on your list, Designing Your Life, How to Build a Well-Lived, Joyful Life. This is what we're talking about. Here's another person's perspective, and I guarantee you they overlap like this. Huge. If you haven't read that, you need to read it. Designing Your Life by Bill Burnett. So that was a really cool read for me. I use that often, which is why it's up on this shelf. So
I recognize that. I think it actually shows up on Amazon with my book of People Buy These Together. I think we recognize it.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, because they're so relevant. The conversations are, from two different, I think these guys are what's the word? Scholarly philosophers at some school.
Yeah, mine is just practical, get to it, let's get into action. So they could be perfect together.
Yep. So, so let's go a little deeper. So
Teddy, we're halfway through the show.
Yeah, go ahead, buddy.
Well, you take it.
Oh, cool. So, hey, folks, we're halfway through the show.
And then let me throw it to you.
Boom, got it. Thank you, buddy.
All right,
so, look, this is Teddy Burriss, my friend Randy Wooden. This is our show, and our special guest is Kristen Zavo, and the conversation is about finding your job joy. And by the way, you'll find Randy and I in our show. You'll find it on Facebook and LinkedIn, and you'll find it on YouTube. Let people know about us. And please, if you find our content out there, give us a like, give us a comment, Tell me if you like my hair and if you specifically like Randy's hair. And more importantly, do you like our special guest? Is that what I'm supposed to do, Randy?
Well, yeah. And to Kristen's point earlier, I guess, or Teddy or both of you talking about clarity and sort of how you get started, and it's not just a linear thing from here to a journal and now the world's problems are solved. But our show's a good example. We started this thing when COVID hit, and they sent me home to work from my palatial estate here, and Teddy has built the ultimate studio.
Man cave. There's a kegerator behind the TV, dude.
But again, it kind of morphed. And the first week, we just the two of us, and we realized that had no future. So we said, hey, maybe we need to bring in a guest. And one thing led to another. And so this thing's kind of taken on a life of its own. It started just very innocently, just saying, hey, we're kind of sitting around like, well, what are we going to do now? Hot shot, right? So that's how it started. And who knows where it'll go. You talk about a side hustle, get some sponsorship, we get grow our viewers. And the nice thing is we get to do something we enjoy, and we're also ultimately helping people. And so I think those kind of check the boxes of some of the things that Teddy and I value. And I think you're in the same boat with that, Kristen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
And I may eventually be able to afford really good signage.
I love it.
One of these days. So, all right. So let's go a little deeper. I want to go back to this conversation that we've touched on and banged up against, and that is our past defines our future. What we've done and how we've gone through it, the people we've met along the way, the ideas we've learned. Look, if I would have decided in 1990, never you mind year it was, before the 1990, if I would have said, I want to be a social media strategist and I want to do a show, a live show through Zoom, nobody would have had a clue, even myself. I had no idea what that was. I had no idea what it means to be a public speaker, a trainer, a coach, to be an author. So it's my past that helps me create who I am today. Can you play with that?
Yeah. So if you caught, like at first when you said the past defines the future, I'm like, no, you're not stuck in the past, but I know what you mean now that you explained a little more. But of course, the past shapes our future for sure, but we are not a slave to the past, right? We get to, in every moment, you get to make a new choice, right? And that will inform, the way I like to think about it is that everything we've been through up to this point in our life is making us even better prepared for what is to come next. So when I was in that miserable job saying, what is wrong with me? I have everything I thought I needed to make me happy, right? And I had my own little breakdown at 30 years old. Can you imagine, right? I thought I was too old to change. It's too late for a new career, right? It's never too late. But at the time, I'm sure that felt useless. But now, right, that helps me be a better career coach. I've quit a job without a job. I've been burnt out. I've gotten sick from work. I've been laid off. All these, I've changed careers, right? all these experiences helped me be a better coach. But at the time, right, there's no way I could have guessed, right? And we've all heard that Steve Jobs commencement speech, right? When he says, you know, and I'm going to totally butcher it, but looking back, right, it's easy to connect the dots. And so I think a lot of peace can be found by trusting that there were no mistakes, right? Even if you'd go back and you do it different now, that everything you've been through has led you to exactly where you are now and prepared you for it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm absolutely with you, Kristen. They are not mistakes. They were slippery rocks that you figured out a way to get over, to get to where you are today. And if you look at my perspective, if you look at your past and go, oh my God, that was freaking horrible. It's the dumbest thing I ever did in my life. What? That's not the way to look at it. You look at what you learned, what you discovered about yourself, Teddy, and how do you position yourself to not step on that slippery rock ever again, do something a little different. So yeah. I like the way you say it. Our past influences our future, doesn't create it. So yeah. So this is another conversation that I wanted to have with you, and that is, so we read all these. I'm making up something here. Okay, here's the story. I read all these really cool books, had all these really cool conversations, and I decide that I'm going to make this huge shift and I'll become a roller derby professional.
Yeah.
I pointed at Randy. Roller derby. That's a new one, buddy.
Right.
That huge leap may not be the right thing to do. It may be, but it may not be. So how do you look at who you are today and who you want to be in the future? And maybe there's some steps you can take, some tweaks you could make. Yeah. Maybe there's some education you got to get, because I've never roller skated. How do you tweak yourself into something you really want to be?
Yeah, so, you know, this goes with the clarity work. So I'm going to just really quickly explain my 3-part job search process, because it's going to help me answer this question. But we always start with clarity, and then we go to what I call campaign. So I treat job search, I treat your career like a campaign, and we are selling you the call to action, hire me for XYZ job, right? Whether it's director of finance or it's head roller derby skater. Right? And so, exactly. And so with that in mind, when we're building our campaign, your campaign is, how do you talk about yourself, right? That's your story. What shows up when someone looks you up on LinkedIn or anywhere online? Of course, your resume, if that applies. Anything out there, right, that is other people talking about you, that is your campaign. And then we go to connection, and that's the networking we've been talking about, right? And so where you left off with your question, Teddy, is, okay, I've gotten some clarity, right? I've been doing some networking. I think roller derby is where I want to go. So then the 3 steps I told you, the clarity, the campaign, the connection, that's a circle. So now you have newfound clarity, right? Through your networking, you're back up to clarity. You have newfound clarity. And from there you say, okay, based on where I am in life, based on my needs, right? Based on my lifestyle, based on my sense of urgency to get the hell out of the job I'm in now, right? Or to get a job that just pays the bills. Based on all these things, then you say, okay, let's build a plan. And it might be that roller derby is further out, and we say, okay, what are the gaps? What do I need to learn? Who do I need to connect with? What experience do I need to get? And then, you know, planning our next short-term goal that is going to lead us there. Because even if you can't get the job right now, you can make sure that that next job is helping you get closer to that.
Yeah, I'm with you. Kristen, do you know what a BHAG is?
A big hairy ass goal. Is that what it is?
Okay. All right. So you've been hanging out with some old guys, because it's no longer a big hairy ass goal.
What is it now?
It's big, hairy, audacious goal.
Audacious goal. There we
go. Big, hairy, audacious goal. And I'm, this satirical analogy I'm putting together. I want to be a roller derby, not queen. Roller derby king.
Bay City Bombers. Was that the Bay City Bombers back in the day? Yeah.
So if that's
wear the
my
helmet.
very audacious goal, then I've got to have very deliberate SMART goals.
Like, let's start. Yes, and we can totally talk about SMART goals, but let's like get you some roller skates to start with. I remember
I need elbow pads.
Elbow pads. You want your wrist guards, so you don't want to break your wrist. I used to rollerblade back when I was a kid. I taught rollerblading to adults. Isn't that so funny? Anyway.
but the BHAG is whatever you think you really are excited about. I tell people, if you just say you want to be a roller derby king and you don't feel it, you don't get goosebumps, that may not be the right thing for you yet. You're still thinking about it.
Yeah, or you're not connected to the why behind it, right?
Yeah.
But it reminds me of an example. I worked with a client here in Cincinnati. She had like a corporate lawyer type job, and she wanted to open up a bakery, and she wanted to be in Boston. And I was talking to her. I said, "Have you ever been to Boston?" Well, no. Go to Boston, right? That was her first assignment. This was before COVID. Book a weekend trip to Boston. See what it feels like. Tour the culinary schools. Like, can you actually imagine a life here? And, after doing that, it turned out she did leave her job. She did, start her own business. And now she has her bakery here in Cincinnati.
Yeah. Didn't have to be in Boston.
It didn't have to be. Yeah.
Yep. Part of that is the whole look before you leap. And I've got a litany of clients who've kind of failed to do that, only to come back and go, oh, why didn't I do it? Hey, we had a question from Steve. As we look at our job joy and where are we going to go next and such, and he brings up an interesting point about preparing for the post-COVID job environment. And I'm not sure that we know what that environment is going to be exactly.
Yeah.
But can you speak to that at all as far as, I guess, being flexible and adaptable? Would those be a couple terms to look at?
So I think like probably all of us here have not been through a global pandemic, so I can't read the future. I don't know what's going to happen, but I do know that it's definitely changing the way we work, right? With so many reasons. But I think especially for people who are interested in industries that are kind of shut down now, right? Hotels, restaurants, movies, production, like any of that, rather than put that dream on hold, I would look at that and say, okay, if I want to have that job in that industry, what are the things I need to learn? And can I do something similar in an industry that is doing well? Because many industries right now are booming, right? We're on Zoom right now, right? I mean, anything that allows virtual work, right, is doing really well. Healthcare, right? Like, we need more people like that. But whatever it is, figure out what can I do now to satisfy my needs, as well as helping me prepare so that when these industries do open up, so when we are in a post-COVID world, you're even better prepared. People who are stopping their job search now, they are going to lose out, because the people who are doing it, they're building their campaign, they're building their connections. People are still landing jobs. Like, we should say that and underline it. I have a 2,000 plus group on Facebook, and every day I hear someone, I landed the job, I got the interview, I'm in the final round. So people still are landing jobs. We just need to your point, Randy, be a little flexible with what is going to work now and how can I still make sure it's in alignment with the job I ultimately want. And it's a great opportunity to see. Everyone says they want to work from home, right? Everyone always said that. That was total dream job. And some people are realizing, no, actually they don't want to work from home, right? There's too many distractions. So using this time of the pandemic and just the world being on fire to say, how am I going to be at the end of this, right? To use this time to really connect with what is most important to you for real, not just a little exercise, right? But to really, what more has to happen in the world for us to be shook to say, am I living the life that I want?
Yeah, with you on that one. There's too much stuff happening for us to go blinders on, trudging through, looking for, and many of the folks on here are job seekers, and they're looking for that last job they had. They're looking for, this lady worked for me. Her last job was accounts payable, A through L. And when I hired her to do something different, it freaked her out. She'd never seen a last name that started with the letter M. for lots of other reasons as well. And my point is, I use that satirical to say, you've got to be looking at doing things differently. Regardless of the pandemic, regardless of what the future holds post this pandemic, you've got to be looking at your life differently. And how can I take this thing that does this stuff with these quirky things all about it and put it somewhere else and make it happy and successful? I think that's what you're saying.
I love that. And my clients have so many different skills and passions. And when they feel like there's just so much to do and it's overwhelming, I ask them to really just tune in and say, what is mine to do? We can't be helping everywhere, everyone, everywhere with all the world's problems, but what is yours to do?
Yeah. Cool beans.
Something to think about too.
Randy.
Yep. Say again.
11:46.
Yep. Or 12:46.
Well, and different time zone is 11:46. We'll go with 12:46 here.
Okay. This some people, I used the term comfortable rut a while back about where we're making money, we've got a mortgage, family, kids in college, that whole picture, and yet not feeling fulfilled at work. And I think a good point you mentioned when John asked about the photography thing is doing volunteer work or finding something that feeds that passion that you may have. And I guess part of the thing here is you may never, ever land in your total job joy. You may never reach that. You know, we've been fortunate enough to reach it, but whether it's because we box ourselves in based on, oh no, I need a certain income, or just fear of the unknown, I think sometimes we are the most limiting factor in our lives. It's what is between these ears that holds us back, but maybe we can at least ease into it. And it was something I know you mentioned earlier in your conversation points, and that is incremental steps. Yeah. You may not get to it immediately, but I think if we feel like we're headed in the right direction, whether it's through volunteering or something, I think that it kind of gives us inspiration and keeps us engaged versus just giving up and say to heck with it. You know, it's fine for Teddy and Kristen, they did, but that's not me.
Life is too long. We spend too many hours at work to be miserable. I don't think it's ever too late to find your job joy. I think it might look different than you think it will look now, but you know, once you, and people here who haven't felt this is going to sound like a fantasy foreign concept, but once you have felt what it's like to show up and just be you and everyone think you're amazing, like you can never go back. You know, I've had clients who have been in, you know, companies for like 10 years, constantly promised promotions over and over and over. They get to a place where they belong, and all of a sudden they're talking about promotions in 3 months of just starting the other job, right? I have a client who she's been there since February. She started right before everything hit. And even working from home, she's already got an award of like, you know, employee of the year. Like it's crazy, you know, and that is absolutely possible. It may include your passions and it may not. And you might decide you don't want to, kind of like we were talking about, put the pressure on your passions to pay the bills.
You know, another thing about this whole idea too, Kristen, I mean, I know people who, I know a personal friend of mine, I think she's working on 23 years, because I hired her, 23 years as a payroll, my words, clerk.
Well, if there's nothing wrong with that, I want to be clear.
That's my point. That's my point. 23 years. She freaking loves her job. And here's why she loves her job. 2 reasons. She loves her job for reason number 1. She is the person responsible to get paychecks to 2,000 plus people every week. And she loves that responsibility. Mm-hmm. She loves that people know that this lady, her name is Sally, that Sally is the one that gets them the paychecks. The second reason why she loves that job is it's an 8-hour-a-day job. And when she's done doing that job, she goes home to her friends, her family, her community activities, and she loves everything about that. So she has this encapsulated part where she is truly appreciated and respected and thanked every day. and then she leaves that and she goes in another space where she totally enjoys life. Not everybody has that. I would wager most people don't.
Yeah. And I think, what you bring up is great, because that's another definition. We get to define success on our own terms. And for her, right, she wants a job. She can come in, work her 8 hours and have a full life. And so that job supports the life she wants. So that is perfect.
Yeah.
I know my personality, a lot of this, right, is our personality, how much challenge we want. I know I always want to be doing something new and learning something new. So me doing the same thing over and over, right, I go crazy. So yeah, so much personality, goals, all that good stuff.
Kristen, we got 10 minutes left, and Randy and I have some closing remarks we have to provide. Would you I really appreciate this, and I appreciate your ideas, your thoughts, and your enthusiasm behind your intent to help people. So thank you. Could you take this whole perspective we talked about and give me a 2-minute statement that we can share with how many people we got on here, Randy? We got 31,000 people just on this call. Collapse it into a statement about the job joy for others.
Yeah. So, the first thing I would say is it is never too late. Whether you're like me having your 30-year-old breakdown, right? Or you're a lot further along, it is never too late. It is always worth it. You deserve to have a job that you love, where you are appreciated, where you are seen, where your voice is heard, where you're doing work that matters, and where you're getting paid well for it. I also would say people are still landing jobs right now, right? It might take a little longer, it might look a little different, but people are landing jobs. You don't have to wait. You don't have to put things on hold. You don't have to endure a toxic situation. And then another thing, which I wanted to share, as we're going into the month of September, I've got a lot of complimentary job search resources coming up. We're starting with a LinkedIn challenge, and that is we start on Monday, but how do you make a profile that really attracts in those opportunities, the right ones, not the salesy MLM, you want to sell shakes type of opportunities, but the ones you want, how do you network, all of that good stuff. So I would recommend people sign up for that.
I'll put all that information, by the way, in the show notes on YouTube.
Perfect. And for anyone who's listening now, it's just challenge.jobjoybook.com. Super easy. And so that would be what I would say. Don't give up. There's so much support around you. You have this. You deserve this.
Randy, I have a closing thought. Do you have one?
Well, kind of, sort of. Of course I do. I'm an old radio jock. Got out of college back in, had no idea what I wanted to do, but I had a face for radio. So I said, what the heck, let's do it. Right. And reasonably good voice, reasonably can speak well, write well, whatever. And so I kind of fell into it and did that for a while until it didn't work as well. Kids were tiny. We had twins at the time. And so where am I going to go with this talent that I have? And I hired a company to help me reinvent myself. And it was probably the best couple $100 I've spent in my life. I learned transferable skills. I learned informational interviewing, networking. I learned a lot of those. And this is back when I was I was about 30 at the time. And anyway, a long journey that has led me here. But about 20 years ago, I remember telling some folks that I said, because they've asked me, why did you start your own business? And ultimately now here at Goodwill, why did you do it? And I said, I didn't want to wake up at age 60 and look back and wonder, why didn't I go for it? And as I sit here today, I am 18 days away from being 60. And it's gone by in a heartbeat, but I wouldn't change it for the world. There have been some lean times, some great times, but I think if we stay with it and we understand the why behind what we're doing, the why behind it, what drives us, what's the why, and once we figure that out, we can figure out a way to make it happen. And whether you want to call it luck, circumstances, whatever, but luck is when preparation meets opportunity. And when those opportunities are there, we take advantage of them. Doesn't mean that life's always a joy and every day is great, but you know what? I think we're headed in that journey. We're headed there. And Kristen, you're in the same boat. I mean, you may find 5 years from now that things shift a little and there's some new passion that you discover.
Oh, they're shifting all the time.
Yeah.
Even right now.
Yeah. So anyway, I guess that's my thought is like yours. Don't give up. Hang in there. There's opportunity out there. And sometimes, again, we don't know what we don't know. So by having those conversations, talk to people who do things that maybe you're not aware of. You may find that there's a whole new chapter out there just waiting for you. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm with you, buddy. Listen, here's my, well, first of all, I'll let you know that our speaker, our guest, our special guest, Randy, I got to remember, special guest is the words I'm supposed to use.
They're all special, man. They're all
not a speaker, a special guest, not unlike Kristen is our special guest of the day. Next week, we'll have Margaret Morris, and Margaret is going to bring a conversation about speaking with confidence. And so Margaret's a great lady. She's smart. She understands the use of the English language, and it'll be a whole lot of fun. Speaking with Confidence with Margaret Morris next week. Here's my closing remarks. Stop looking for a job. Start finding conversations to uncover the job for you. I see this all the time. I hear people go, oh my God, I tell you, I get 30 emails a day from Monster, Career Builder, Ladder, Simply Hired, Indeed, blah, 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 job boards. Stop all that stuff. All it's doing is depressing you, and it's, eating up the internet and corroding the internet, Randy, taking away bits and bytes from other important stuff like Netflix movies. Yeah, write that down. Mr. Burriss said corroding the internet. So stop doing all that. Yes, create very focused searches and pay attention to them, but that's a side task. The most important thing you can do to find the job that brings you the most amount of joy, is to spend time getting into conversations with people. I see it going on right now in the chat box. I got 2 people who are saying we need to talk about ideas for each other. That's what you got to do. Get into conversations with people. And maybe you're not an extrovert and loud, noisy, pompous, big noisy thing like me, but you don't need to be. You can speak softly, and you can have quiet conversations, and you can ask questions, because that's where you're going to find your joyful job. It's through a conversation with someone who can introduce you to someone for a brand new idea. And maybe you're not going to be a roller derby queen or roller derby king, but maybe you'll own a roller derby franchise. Yep. Anyway, that's my words. Kristen, again, thank you very much for joining us. Randy, I think we're doing pretty good. We got a minute and a half left, man. Did I miss anything?
I don't know. You sing and dance? Yeah.
No, that's not my goal, dude. Roller derby, man. Roller derby. Listen to what I say.
Hey, just as a quick reminder, if you have ideas for topics that we could share, or speakers or special guests, I should say, special guests, we're always open to that. We're a couple of amateurs trying to do this thing. We do it every, to produce and put together a live show with guests and to somehow sound coherent and all this, make it come together. It takes a little bit of time and effort. So any help that you can provide with topics or special guests that might help job hunters or overall professional development, because what you talked about today is more than just work, it's life. And we've had people in to talk about personal branding and just a whole host of things that aren't necessarily, okay, how do I build a resume? How do I interview? But it's becoming self-aware of any number of things in our lives. So again, we're always open to those opportunities to learn along with you. And again, it's all free. So find us on LinkedIn. Let us know how we can help you.
Yeah. And I'll share Kristen's information in the YouTube channel. By the way, if you bump into Randy and I and this, our show, syndicated in my mind, give us a like, give us a comment, and let someone else know about it. If you think it was beneficial to you, maybe it's beneficial to somebody else. It's 1 o'clock. Kristen, good seeing you. Randy, take care, buddy. We'll see everybody in a week.
All right. Bye-bye.
Everybody.
Thank you.